Wel, noswaith dda iawn I chi gyd, a chroeso I chi I webinar cyswllt ffermio ar garddwriaeth. Good evening and a very warm welcome to Farming Connect's Horticulture webinar. I'm Eirwen Williams and I will be chairing the webinar tonight. But we do have translation available, croeso Catrin Llwyd. So if you do require translation, because parts of the meeting will be in Welsh, please click on the interpretation button, usually it's at the bottom of your screen, and select the English translation. And because we've got the translation, you're more than welcome to ask questions through the Q&A button, either in Welsh or in English. And if at any point the translation isn't working, please let us know again through the Q&A tab as well. Felly, bwriad y webinar heno yw I roi gwybod I chi am y cymorth sydd ar gael gan Lywodraeth Cymru I ddatblygu garddwriaeth yng Nghymru. Ac rydyn ni'n ffodus iawn I gael cwmni Richard Evans o Is-adran Amaeth Cynaladwyedd a Datblygu Llywodraeth Cymru. Byddwn ni hefyd yn clywed gan Dr Delana Davies am rai o brosiectau garddwriaeth cyswllt ffermio. Ac yna ar ddiwedd y webinar bydd cyfle I chi I holi'r siaradwyr. Felly, heb oedi mwy, hoffwn I gyflwyno ein siaradwr gwadd heno, sef Richard Evans o Lywodraeth Cymru. Croeso ato ni, Richard. Very warm welcome.
Diolch yn fawr. Thank you. I'll just share a presentation and we'll get going. Right, so recently, the Minister announced, and I think it was on the 1st of April, rural development funding, which would be domestic previous RDP equivalent, so replacement for the previous RDP funds. And on the same day that she announced the budget, we did open the first scheme for to take advantage of the budget, which was the horticulture development scheme. So what I intend to do tonight is to go through that scheme with you and give you an overview of the scheme and a preview, if you like, of a horticulture startup scheme that we'll be opening later this month. So I've got a few slides on both schemes. They are an overview of the schemes. Guidance will be available on the website. But it'll give you a flavour of what the schemes are available, what the application process is, and who's eligible and so forth. And obviously there'll be questions at the end. So I'll run through them and hopefully give you a flavour of both schemes. So the first one, the horticulture development scheme. Very simply, this one is for existing commercial horticultural producers. And the window has opened on the 4th of April and it will close on the 27th of May. The budget that the indicative budget for this is £1.5 million. So simply eligibility, you need to be a commercial horticultural producer, and at the application stage you need to evidence this as well. So we need evidence that you've got sales in your accounts or evidence of receipts of invoices and so on that you've submitted. So that will be part of the application process. If you're unable to evidence that you're a commercial producer, you're not eligible for this scheme. In terms of what do we define as horticulture, so edible fruit, vegetables, ornamental plants and flowers. The only exception is trees or commercial tree nurseries that service commercial woodlands. Horticulture trees, ornamental trees, they are eligible. If you produce both of those, a commercial tree nursery and other horticultural crops, I would suggest you send us a message through the mailbox that we've got in the guidance, just to confirm your eligibility for us to explain what is eligible and what is not. So the grant that's offered is a minimum £3,000 and a maximum 50,000. So that is at 40% contribution towards capital investments. So it's a 50% grant, a 50,000 grant, not 40% of 50,000. So to get the full grant, full 50,000, you'd need an investment of over 100,000. The contract will be for 12 months. So from the date that you're offered a contract, you'd have to purchase the items that we've supported and submit a valid claim. So all the applications submitted through RPW Online. So you'll have to register online. Either you're already registered. If you're not, in the guidance, there's a guidance of how to register as a, so I would imagine there is some horticulture enterprises that are not registered. The process itself is in 2 stages, although for the applicant, for yourselves, it is, as you go into it, it is a one process, but the appraisal will be done in 2 stages. So in the application, what you need to do then, so there is an online form. So if you go through RPW Online into your account, you can open the scheme applications and an application form will come up where there's a series of questions and boxes where you have to submit your responses on the system online. There is a word count on each one, so really we're looking at concise responses to the questions as opposed to quite a long responses. It's what you say, not how long the answer is really, so that, please remember that. So there are a series of questions, and to support that application we need a business plan, copies of 3 years of your certified accounts. If you don't have 3 years of certified accounts, you need accounts for the period that you have, and for the recent period, management accounts if you don't have certified accounts. Again, this is an area that some business probably not sure what to submit if you're recently established. If that's the case, you're not sure, again, we'll give you contact details later that you can get in touch so that we can confirm. To support the business plan, you will need financial projections for 3 years as well. Just before I go on to the other requirements on the business plan, in the guidance we've set out the business plan requirements, and these are, I think, 6 points. So what we're not necessarily looking for a long 30-page business plan. What we're looking at is responses to those 6 questions. So these questions are things like, business details, the resources that you have available into the business, summary of recent financial performance, especially the horticulture enterprise, if the accounts are a combined agriculture and horticulture accounts, information about what your objectives and investment proposals are, and some appraisal of how you've established your investment proposal. So those are the questions, those are the minimum requirements of the business plan. And if you've covered those requirements, that is the requirement. There's no, everything else adds to the information, but they won't be appraised. So to support this, to carry on with the application requirements, evidence of funding, 3 quotes for each investment item, 1 quote if it's less than 5,000, and like I mentioned earlier at the beginning, evidence that you're a producer of commercial crops, horticultural crops. The application is appraised in 2 stages. We explain this in more detail in the guidance. So of the 9 questions that we ask in the application, we'll appraise the initial 4 first, and rank all applicants from 1 downwards against those 4 criteria. And then we'll select according to the budget that we have available before going back and appraising the remainder of the applications then to those that have been selected. If you're selected after the first appraisal period, we will let you know through RPW Online. And then if you're successful after the second period, we will offer you the contract again through RPW Online, and then you'll have to accept that contract before the budget is secured to you. Full details available on the website. So I suggest if you haven't done so already, read those in details, especially the scoring criteria for the questions. We state what we're looking for in terms against the criteria. So you know, for instance, in the strategic fit, we are looking at, we're considering, is the project innovative? Does it have new technology? If it does, you need to state that that's in your application. Similar, there are questions on impact on the environment, on soil, water, and air quality. So we are guiding you down towards what the response is or what we're looking for. So I would suggest that you read the guidance in detail. And if you have any questions or queries regarding eligibility or eligibility of whether equipment can be supported or not, there's a mailbox there, and if you send your query out of the mailbox, we'll try and come back to you as quickly as we can. So that's the development scheme. So I would expect that most businesses who are looking to apply for that one have started the process, and hopefully tonight we can just give you some response to some questions that you got to the application process. So later this month then, we will be opening a small grants horticulture startup scheme. So this is designed to support entry into the scheme. So it is new entrants. So the aim is to either support new horticultural businesses or horticultural enterprises within an existing agricultural business. So if a farmer wants to diversify and start a horticultural business, that would be just as eligible as a startup business. So the application process, the window for this scheme opens 25th of May and closes on the 29th of June. And the indicative budget for this window is 300,000. Very simply, the eligibility criteria for this scheme is you need to intend to establish a new commercial horticultural enterprise. You're not eligible if you're an existing producer by default in terms of the guidance, but also if you're an owner, partner, or shareholder in a business with a horticultural interest. If you do not intend to produce crops commercially, to sell them commercially, you're not eligible. And you'll need to demonstrate this at the application stage. The grant available for this scheme is a fixed grant amount of £3,000 for successful applicants. And again, the contract period will be for 12 months from the contract offer date. So in reality, the application period will be starting in the summer, contracts will come in late summer, and there's a time there for preparation really for probably spring planting. Again, all applications have to be through RPW Online, and there is a two-stage application process. The first stage is an expression of interest. So this will be quite easy and straightforward to fill. It's a series of questions. We'll ask you your qualifications, your sector that you're targeting, what you intend to grow, your background, have you got a business plan, and so forth. So it's a series of questions, and there'll be scoring criteria against those questions, and that will be the initial selection of candidates that will progress to the second stage application process, or the full application process. If you're successful, we'll give you access through RPW Online to the full application form. Again, it'll be similar to the development scheme, but much simpler. So there's no requirement for a business plan. There's no requirement for financial forecasts, but there'll be a series of questions that you to demonstrate what you want to do. So we'll be asking, quite simple, straightforward questions such as what is your activity that you tend to do? What is your target? So what crop do you intend to grow? What's the market you intend to go for? What's the area of crop or volume of crop? What resources you have? Do you have access to land? Do you have access to a glasshouse, a polytunnel, and so on? Your knowledge and experience of the sector. Some finance questions in terms of how we can fund the startup prior to the grant being claimed, and some questions on risk. You will have 2 months or 8 weeks to complete the second stage application. So there's plenty of time to complete that one. And those will open to successful applicants only following the first stage. So just to go back, and this is some of the elements. So if you're successful, these are the outcomes to be able to submit a claim at the end for the £3,000. So these are what we expect all the supported businesses to achieve. So you will have achieved, established a new business or horticultural enterprise or business. You will have grown the crop on a commercial scale, developed a route to market, and achieved some sales income from selling the crop. During the 12 months of establishing the business, you will develop knowledge and intelligence of the crop, both growing, storage, packaging, marketing, distribution, so on. But also we'd expect you to be engaged in some relevant skills development activity as well, relating to the new business. And the key outcome at the end of the 12 months period will be that you will have developed a 3-year business plan with a timeline to develop what you started as an initial enterprise to a commercial venture. So without that business plan and evidence that you've achieved some of these outcomes, very simply, that will be the key to be able to claim the £3,000. So that is the seed funding, if you like, for you to start the business and come up with a business plan to develop that into a more long-term sustainable business. So the scheme itself is quite simple, but there will be expectations that if you're successful, you will deliver against what you've said you will deliver. So we'll be asking you in the application what scale you will grow the crop, and what market you intend to target, what level of sales you want to target. We'd expect you to go some way to achieving those targets. Again, the full guidance of this will be available just before the window opens later this month. I think there's plenty of time during the initial EOI and full application process for you to be able to develop the application, and plenty of time to develop and reconsider your application. But if there are questions, the same mailbox is available, same as the development scheme. So like I say, there's 300,000 budget there, so it does enable us to support quite a few business if they're successful and reach our selection criteria. So that's a quick run through both schemes. I don't know, do you need to do questions now or later? Irwan.
Yes. Diolch yn fawr iawn, Richard, am y cyflwyniad yna. Thank you very much for that presentation. No, we'll come back